Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com.
Drinking liquids that were left or stored in a metal container overnight. Ever hear of people who won't drink soda cans, even with a good hashgacha, or will abstain from taking hot water from the metal water urn on Shabbos morning, due to a strange claim that we don't drink water or any liquid left in a metal container overnight? Is this true? What is the background behind this stringency? Do people have to keep it? And when does it apply? So we have an explicit Gemara in Maseches Nida, page 17a, in the name of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that there's 5 things that if a person does mischayev benafshe, he can bring himself to death, chas v'shalom. And one of the 5 things listed is one who drinks water that has been passed over the night. And the Gemara there explains, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel v'hu shelanu bekli matches. This refers to liquids that have rested, that have been stored overnight in a metal container. Wow! So the stringency that we mentioned above is an explicit Talmudic source. However, not so fast. Just because it's written in the Talmud doesn't mean that we practically rule this way lahalacha, especially in regards to matters of spiritual sakana, which is not understood according to health and science, in which we find in many cases that it only applied in Talmudic times and no longer today. And perhaps the same is the case here. So now we have to look, is this recorded in the Shulchan Aruch? And the answer is that while we do not find it recorded in the Machaber Ramah, in the relevant sections in the Shulchan Aruch, it is recorded in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch in Choshen Mishpat, Hilchos Shmiras Haguf V'Hanefesh, Halacha 7, in the name of Rashbi. And so is brought in the Yerushalmi and in some Rishonim such as the Rosh. And in light of the ruling of the Alter Rebbe, many Achronim record this prohibition as well. Now, what are the parameters of this prohibition and to what does it apply? So first and foremost, it only applies to metal containers or containers made of neser, which is either sodium hydroxide, alum or chalk material, but not to glass or plastic or other material vessels in which the water stayed overnight. That's point number 1. Point number 2, it only applies towards liquids that contain water, as written in the Gemara. However, fruit juices, wine, and etc., which do not contain added water, are not included in this prohibition of sakana. Point number 3, there is a machlekes, a debate amongst the authorities regarding if it applies to plain water, as the wording of the Gemara is mashkin mezugim, which can be translated to mean water-based beverages, but not plain water beverages. So only applying to watered-down grape juice, different sodas and fruit juices of today, but not to just pure plain water. Practically, this is a machlekes if it applies to plain water or not. The Alter Rebbe, on the one hand, in Orach Chaim 455:19 rules that it does not apply to plain water. Although in the original halacha, in Choshen Mishpat, the Alter Rebbe there writes in parentheses that if it applies to water-based liquids, then certainly it applies to water itself, to plain water that's left overnight in a metal container. And so rule other achreinim, including the Marsham, Tila LeDavid, Bnei Tzia, and Divrei Yatziv. And the Rebbe in Nigras Kodesh, volume 2, page 140, deals with the contradiction in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch and gives various explanations, although in the conclusion he accepts that the Alter Rebbe's final opinion is, as he writes in the parentheses here, that indeed the prohibition extends even to plain water. According to what we just learned, it seems that it is forbidden to drink any soda can or juice can due to the fact that the liquid stayed in the can overnight. It would likewise be forbidden to have a Shabbos urn made of metal and take water the next morning from it. Furthermore, canned foods that contain water-based liquids would also be forbidden, and hence we would knock off a huge food industry from Jewish kosher consumption market. Furthermore, it would also enter into question whether you can ever take water out of the tap, because the water is left in the pipes, which is metal, overnight. Nonetheless, in truth, this the Rebbe negates in his letter Nigras Kodesh, saying it doesn't apply to vessels attached to the ground, as they're not considered actual vessels. But nonetheless, all the other cases would be in question due to the prohibition. Practically, what's the halacha, and is there a defense behind the kosher market today who's all lenient in this? So while we do find, as we will bring later on, a story with the Rebbe Marash and different Rabbani Anash who were very stringent in this matter, and yes, they would not drink liquids that were left in metal containers, as is the halacha. Nonetheless, practically today, the custom is to no longer be careful in this, whether regarding plain water, watered down beverages, and we don't fear and we eat and consume all the above items, soda cans, food cans, water from a Shabbos urn that's made of metal, etc. And in defense of this custom, the Rebbe explains in his above-mentioned letter in Igros Kodesh that in all matters that are forbidden due to sakana, danger of segula, of mystical danger, as this case is, when the entire Jewish people have become lenient in it, we use a verse which states, Shomer P'soim Hashem, Hashem protects the fools, to allow it to be done and to say that the danger no longer applies. And thus, as the Rebbe concludes there, even initially it is permitted to rely on this custom, even if one is a Yerushalayim and a Torah scholar, and partake in these foods and liquids. And thus, there is no need in conclusion to abstain from drinking canned soda or other canned foods, and you can leave your water overnight in a metal kettle or electric urn, such as for the sake of Shabbos, and there's no need to avoid doing so despite the sourced ruling in Shulchanaruchharav and the Talmud. However, it is interesting to note the sources behind this issue, and that those who are machmir are not crazy. They are following an issue which was initially accustomed to be followed, as we will now emphasize in a Maisa Shayin, a story that occurred with the Rebbe Marash. The famed Rav and Chassid Rav Zalman Shimon Dvorkin records in his Sefer Shmos Usipurim, Volume 2, that one Shabbos many guests came to Lubavitch, including many Rabbanim of Anash, and on Shabbos morning, the famous Lubavitch Rebbetzin Rivka, wife of the Rebbe Marash, offered the rabbinic guests tea to drink. When they sat on the table, they saw a worker place a large copper urn on the table that held the hot water and poured everyone a cup of tea. And immediately a discussion ensued amongst the Rabbanim, are we allowed to drink this tea? The water stayed in a copper urn overnight. The rabbinic prohibition of the Talmud recorded in the Alter Rebbe, even regarding plain water, as we mentioned. So while some of the Rabbanim said, nay, we can't drink it, others said, hey, we're in the Rebbe Marash's house. If he can drink it, it's good enough for me as well. Another said it's mutter because of Kveit Shabbos, and on Shabbos you don't get injured from these things. And they came up with various halachic justifications and defenses for doing this. The Rebbe Marash suddenly walks in, he sees all the Rabbanim surrounding the tea cups, not sipping from it, and he asks, what's going on? What's the excitement? And when they told him the issue, the Rebbe Marash gave a slight laugh and he said, I'll solve all your problems. He called his worker to come in and bring the urn. The worker came in with an earthenware urn. The water was in the earthenware urn overnight. He just poured it into a copper urn for the sake of serving it to them, but it didn't stay there overnight, and hence the entire discussion was irrelevant. But nonetheless, from all this we see that back in the day people were very careful in this, although today, as we mentioned, the minig is lahakil, and so may be done even initially. As Shem Epsayim Hashem, Hashem saves us and guards us from these things.
Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com. Our free services of making Torah knowledge available to the public depends on donors like you. Please help us continue our work through making even a small contribution at Shulchanaruchharav.com under the Daily Halacha Dedication section or in the subscription page. Also, check out our online courses and many sefarim available for purchase that will both enhance your Torah knowledge and help support our work.